Welcome to the Chain Film Festival. I'm here with Uptown Dave. I love the title of this film. I'm here with David Zayas Jr. and Adam. I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Nunez.
Adam Nunez. Adam Nunez is the DP slash co-director, editor of the film, and David, as you just saw, is the star and the writer and the co-director of the film. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I got to ask about the song right out of the gate. Are you a Billy Joel fan?
Well, yeah, of course I'm Billy Joel fan. And for some reason I was driving one day and the song came on, and that's kind of where I started thinking it could be a cool twist to do something dark with it. I don't know why. It just came up in my mind while listening to the song one day.
Well, I really dig it because I love that juxtaposition of a happy song with a dark moment in a movie. Like I've always dug that, or like they're playing like a love song during a fight scene or something. And
Yeah.
I immediately jumped on that when I started watching this. Not to mention the fact that I am from Long Island, so I think it's a birthright that I'm a Billy Joel fan.
Yes.
I feel like the younger generation is finally jumping on the bandwagon that it's popping up in pop culture much more than being your parents' music. Either that or I'm just getting really old.
We love all that music. So it was funny because I was listening to a Spotify playlist of Succession, and for some reason Uptown Girl was on that playlist, and that's how it came up, truthfully.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure they used that in the show at some point. I remember catching it and that's what I'm saying is like it's popping up here and there, and the Boys also is featured Billy very heavily. Like that's like such a point in that series. So this is a wonderful short film in a very vulnerable and deep film. Watching it again too after the first time of watching, like there's real nuance to this. Can we talk about what the process was like of just even shooting that and getting in that mindscape?
During it, I mean, it was really fun. We had there's a lot of outtakes of us laughing. While acting it, I was trying to make myself cry a lot of the time, but it was really difficult, and the crying would happen at random moments instead of the moments I really wanted it to happen. So but pretty much I just kept, it was a very personal thing towards me. Like when I wrote it, it was more of me saying goodbye to something that from my past instead of like an actual person I shot, or it was like saying goodbye to a situation or just kind of moving on. And so I just thought of all those heavy thoughts, and that's how I guess it showed in the film.
I mean, it certainly does. And that's so wonderful that the two of you were able to have this a relationship to be able to do this together and be vulnerable and create something. And the fact that you're laughing makes total sense, because it's like if you don't laugh, you cry. Like it's it being on set for those kinds of things, and the fact that you obviously you're close and you're friends, that you're able to do that with one another. That's a really cool journey.
We've been working together for years, just hanging out, being friends. You know, I was present for a lot of the things that happened that he was probably thinking of while making this, you know. So he called me and like, hey, you know, come by, I have this idea for this short. And I'm like, all right, cool, let me grab my camera. I also wanted to test out a new rig that I was setting up with an old Anamorphics adapter, you know. So it was just like on that side of things, it made it interesting for me too, because I got to practice and set up a quick lighting setup. And we're actually on a super time crunch because this is late at night. We're in like this back alley.
Yeah, I had a flight the next morning.
You know,
I also had a flight the next morning. It was filmed in November of 2019, and I had a flight to LA the next morning, and we had a few hours, and we were in an alley, which we had to always move when parking cars would come park. So we had to stop and then move all the lights and do it all over again.
Right. So, and he had a prop gun, you know, which looks like a real gun to anybody
so we had to
else.
be careful.
So whenever it came, we had to really be careful and put that away, so nobody gets the wrong impression of what's going on.
There's nothing like shooting in the city, guerrilla.
Yeah, and it was funny because sometimes I would pop out the car and try to help them move, and with my ski mask on, and I forgot. And I'm like, oh man, they think I'm gonna rob them. So it was fun. It was fun.
That's great. I mean, I think about all the times that like for the theater, I've been on a subway and like I know I have like a box of like prop guns or like a sword or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I like no one's gonna believe me like if I get pulled out of the crowd, but I have to travel with these things. And
yeah, seriously.
So it's really exciting to have you here, and I think it's really cool that you decided to do this and just take this small moment of time, and we don't even know what happens. Like it's kind of great.
A lot of people told me I should continue it or do like downtown someone else or and then like combine all of them, but I'm thinking about it, so we'll see how it comes about.
Well, we'd love to see more, but it's beautiful on its own. You know, it's just a slice of life, and I don't know what that character's going through, but he's going through something, and it doesn't sound like it ended well. But maybe he's just fleeing. Maybe he's off camera running around, and maybe somebody robbed him. Maybe he's the one wronged that we didn't know. We don't even know.
Yeah, so that's exactly why I wanted to leave it open ended, because I want everyone else to, the way I was saying bye to something on my own, on my personal level through the story, I want everyone else to look at this character and be like, man, if I was this person, what would be my meaning or my reasoning of doing this? And so I left it open for everyone to interpret in their own personal way. So it'd be fun like that. I'd like to see what people think of, and they always tell me different ideas of what they think I did.
So. That's fun. That's awesome. Yeah. That's the magic of film, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you both did an amazing job on this piece, and I hope you continue collaborating all the time. And we would love to see more of your work.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you both so much for joining us here.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having us.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, happy to be here.
And you're with the film's Scarlett Circle, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And are you the director, the writer?
Director, producer, writer, bunch of different hats on this one.
Yeah, I thought you did everything, so I didn't want to say something out of turn.
No, that's okay. No, I had a good team with me, but definitely had to do a few different things on this one.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really cool short.
Thank you so much.
I mean, one of the great joys of doing a festival is seeing films that use time so efficiently and can tell such a vast story in such a short period of time. And the turn on this is like very few that I've ever seen, because we believe we're obviously in this thriller horror films sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we see where we are. And it's hysterical.
Yeah.
So it's equally horrifying and hysterical.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are those the kind of genre? What kind of genres do you normally work in? Is it like
I've done a few small short films, usually comedy type things. That was the first one where it was a little more like a thriller-ish kind of thing. Tried to do something a little out of sort.
Very cool. And what made you decide on that specific kind of look and focus the effect that the film has in the beginning? Was it something you found in post, or you knew going in what it was going to look like?
I knew I wanted the actor to be kind of anxious and that kind of that feeling, but our awesome visual effects editor came up with that final look on his own. So
it's
I was really
awesome
happy with it. He did a great job.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And the sound even really hyper focused, really great visuals, and really high production value because of it too.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, our sound editor was also the visual effects and helped me edit as well. His name's Anthony. He did a great job.
And so when you wrote this, you always knew it was going to be this kind of micro short of this idea.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I had kind of the idea for it, and then I spoke with a few of my friends, and the 3 or 4 of us kind of just sat down and kind of just hashed it out together.
And I like how even that you take it to its full extent. You manage in the course of, what is this, 3 or 4 minutes?
It's a little under 3 minutes.
Yeah, so in 3 minutes, and then you even take it to its full extent. You see that this is how this guy lives his life. Like, you know that forever he lives like this.
Yeah.
Because you wonder if it's just that one moment, or if it's just it's
in those moments of high stress and having to make big decisions.
And the idea of the pen too. Was that always the start of the?
Yeah, it was
idea?
actually. It was something where I was kind of just trying to think of a way to make a film using a pen. I was sitting in a seminar and I was just kind of holding the pen. I was trying to mind kind of going off on a break, and I kind of came up with the idea, like, what could I do with this? And that's kind of where it went. I knew a lot of my friends were buying houses last year, so I had kind of heard a lot of stories of, you know, high stress environments, and kind of melded the two with a couple of other people who helped me write it.
And working with the actors on set, how did you approach telling the story? It's really interesting to find that comedic balance when they're playing the stakes as high as they are too.
Yeah.
How did you know that you had that lightning in a bottle when you were trying to do it?
We've done a couple things together, me and that group of actors. So I kind of knew what I had going in, and I knew the comedic part would be there. So, and I just kind of had some faith that it would all work out that way.
It's just a great film, and I'm so excited to be able to show it in the festival and share this piece. It really, like, the production value blew me away too.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be part of the festival. We appreciate it a lot.
And if you could give the audience an idea where they can see some of your work at.
I have a website, my name, ryanservasio.com, and I have an Instagram page with a lot of it on there. So those are really
everybody should go check out Ryan's stuff, because I know I am. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I'm here with Adam and his film, The Body, that you just saw. Thank you for joining us, Adam. How you doing over there in Australia?
Yeah, I'm going well, thanks. How are you guys?
Good. I mean, other than, the pandemic thing.
Yeah, I was going to say half of the course.
Yeah. How is it in Australia right now with the pandemic?
Yeah, not too bad. We had a little bit of a scare, and they put us into lockdown for 48 hours just because there was a little cluster of cases that sort of came out half an hour or so from where I live, and but that's all ending tonight, I think, at midnight. So it'll just go back to normal, and masks and whatnot. So yeah,
it's been interesting to talk to people from all around the world during the course of the film festival this year, and just see how everyone's dealing and what situation they're in. We're in New York, obviously, and it sounds like we're headed into another kind of lockdown situation. They just closed the schools, so not a good sign. But we're really excited to be able to have you here. And in a way, we may not have had you before, like if you weren't going to be able to come from Australia for this. So it's exciting to have you. And I think this film is just so funny and so wonderful that it, the mashing up of genres is always exciting for me. And I actually feel that too, that it tends to be like, I gravitate towards Australian films a lot. And like before a word of dialogue was spoken and I was watching it, I was like, this is an Australian film. I could just feel that sensibility of the wonderful country. Is this like a figment of my imagination that like every Australian film has that kind of grit to it? Like,
yes and no. I suppose we're probably not the best judges, being Australian, ourselves. But I think there, like you say, there tends to be a sensibility with what we make, and I suppose we specialise in that kind of like dark comedy. There's a number of crime films and things like even Mad Max and stuff like that. It's been the most iconic ones, and Wake in Fright. There's been a lot of movies that have done really well coming out of here, but as a rule, we tend to judge our stuff quite harshly. So, I'm glad that everybody else, it's resonating really well around the States and the UK and a bunch of other places, but actually hasn't done quite as well here, which is a little bit disappointing. But I sort of knew that when I made it, that it might be a bit of a swing and a miss for Aussies, just because we already know what we're like. We know our lingo, we know our humour, and people just sort of go, another one of those films again. Whereas for you guys, it's something new.
No, it's wonderful. And every film festival, as a filmmaker that I've traveled with, I always hang out with the Australian filmmakers throughout the entire time. So I'm obviously prejudiced, and I just love Australian films generally. But this is wonderful. That's silly that anyone would ever blow this off, because it's a wonderful film. What more do you want? It's the right length for what it is. And that's what I always judge short films by too, is like, how much are you able to fit in a short period of time? How are you getting the information out there and the unraveling of that story and who that person is and what's happening? And this has a wonderful turn too, towards the very end, obviously, which I didn't see coming at all because I was wrapped up in who these people are and the comedy of the situation. Can you talk about developing those two characters?
That's great that you didn't see that coming. I've had a number of people. I think at our premiere, I had 2 or 3 people come up to me and they thought, based on the poster art and just the synopsis, they actually thought it was going to be like a hit and run type of situation because you've got the 2 vehicles on the poster and the body in the middle. And so someone was like, "Oh, I had no idea it was going to be what it turned out to be." So that's good because when you write it yourself, you think, is this a bit telegraphed? Are people going to see these sorts of developments coming? And so it's nice to hear that you were genuinely surprised by it. The reaction, 90% of people have been genuinely surprised, which is, pretty good when you're aiming for a lot of, a big demographic. So, but as far as the characters were concerned, they were kind of I always had one in mind to be this kind of dominant, experienced guy who is sort of at the end of his tether, or he's coming to the end of his lifespan as that in that profession. And the other one, just an overly eager. I'm self-employed. I'm a carpet layer by trade, and if you've ever tried to get help from somebody who's overly enthusiastic and has all the right sort of ideas, but doesn't know the practicality side of it, that's basically where the film stemmed from. Was from taking that scenario in my job and turning it into the world of hitmen, I suppose.
I love that. That translates somehow. That's amazing. Like, how can I use my life towards these hitmen?
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think it was a conscious decision. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, you'd be able to tell having seen the film and those who have watched it. That I'm a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino and the Coen brothers and a number of those type of filmmakers. And so you can tell those influences are there. So I had in mind to make something of that ilk, but it just so happened to work out that I could relate it to my job.
I love and I think what draws you into this scenario too is that yes, he's domineering in the beginning, but then there's this moment of levity between the two, and I was like, that's really nice. Like, I just remember like it just like struck me, like it just really felt honest and genuine, which of course sets up the ending. It's brilliant. It's brilliantly layered.
That was kind of just I can't even recall if that was scripted. I don't think I had that he hugs him in there. I think that was Anton that plays Steve-O. I think that was just there was a number of genius things he did throughout, just little things that weren't in the script. Even like right from the very beginning, the character's name was just Steve. And then when he corrects it in the beginning, when he goes, "What's your name again, Steve?" And he goes, "Steve-O," and sort of puts point on it. That wasn't in the script. That's all just Anton, doing his thing. And the same with Mark. Both of them are they've known each other for, I think, 2 decades. So, they've got that, hopefully that, rapport shines through.
It certainly does. It certainly does. So what do they know each other is just working on different projects as actors?
Yeah, just I just think through theatre. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure they both just started in theatre. They've done like a lot of shows here in South Australia and interstate. I know Mark's been over to I think to the UK and to Scotland, and so they've been honing their craft for a fairly long time. So I lucked out in a big way with everybody involved, really, and particularly those two.
Yeah, it's a wonderful piece. It really is, and I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to show it. It's got that kind of action feel, but really, it's just a conversation between two people trying to understand one another. Which all my favorite films do, and I can see from behind you that you and I share a lot of similar interests as well.
Yeah, mine are the same. It's very much about dialogue for me. I mean, it always has to be moving and going somewhere, but you take some of the best writers and they can just have an isolated situation. And basically that's what Tarantino is so good at. If you actually break his films down, they're just a series of set pieces and individual scenes that could almost work as short films in isolation, and every one of them is that good that when you put them together with a cohesive narrative that comes together in an interesting way, you get those masterpieces like Inglourious Basterds and The Hateful Eight and those kinds of films.
And those are, you're talking about some of my very, very favorite films, and the reason that I ever started getting the film or acting was Pulp Fiction. So But Adam, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to also I was wondering if there's a place that the audience might be able to see some of your work or trailers for some of your films.
Yep, I've got an IMDb page, which is just under Adam Weber. You can either find it, if you search the Body short film, you can find it, the same as a Facebook page that we've got, which we share the trailer and whatnot. My debut short film, After Hours, which is from 2016, that dropped not too long ago on YouTube, and it has horror icon Bill Oberst Jr., who a lot of people know. So if they're horror fans, they can go and check that out. I've got a second short film called The First Date, which is just a little micro dark comedy horror short, which will be out the beginning of next year on YouTube or those platforms. And you'll be pleased to know that if you're a fan of Tarantino stuff, I've actually got a Western comedy, little bit of action film in the works at the moment, or screenplay in the works at the moment. So
awesome, Adam. And please reach out and send that to me, because I love your stuff.
Thank you so much.
So nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us.
Likewise.
I'm here with Justin from the film Hot Pink that you just watched. Thank you so much for joining us, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Justin is the writer, the director, the DP, the producer, and that's usually how it goes here at the Chain Film Festival.
You know how
wearing
it is,
many
yeah.
hats. That's how you get the job done. And I have to say, on all of those fronts, it's a huge success. Your success goes into many different levels with this piece. And I have to say, like, the acting, the the directing here, and just you're on for a ride here with this. So are you a fan of heist films in general?
I'd say that I'm more of a fan of films that have to do with sort of those interfamily relationships. And I like a bit of tension, and I guess as most people do, and I really love thrillers. I think as far as heist films go, I started first with wanting to tell a story about a father and his relationship with his daughter, and sort of and put them in a place where they're not safe. And I feel like I also wanted to say something about art, or I wanted to I had some thinking around that as well. So I was really coming from that place rather than like I want to make a heist film.
It's really cool that it has such like a late point of attack that you're stuck in the middle of it. It feels like it could be the middle of another film, which is the way I love it. And I see totally that parallel. That was going to be one of my questions, was that parallel between the father and the daughter of the people committing the robbery, and the father and the daughter who eventually, the artist and his daughter who shows up at the end of the film. And so I could see that through line, and some of that, the desperation that the artist has on multiple levels, obviously, of just getting to sell this big piece, and also the marital strife that, or the home life. Are they? I don't even know if are they married.
I guess it was sort of implied that they're divorced, or they had gone through something.
Yeah, I totally picked up,
Cool.
that. I've also I love the turn of the stomach noises that gives it all away. What inspired you with that?
I think we were playing around with a couple different ways where we can how are we going to alert Randall, who is the artist, how are we going to alert him that someone is in his house, that she's in the closet? And we had a bunch of different ideas. Maybe she spilt something and he's looking around and he finds it, or we had a couple different things we were playing around with. But ultimately, we wanted to tie it back to even the smallest example of her father's like neglect. And like the first thing they talk about is like, I'm hungry, and you didn't bring you brought some shit that I couldn't eat. You brought some stuff that I couldn't eat, and he just sort of brushes her off, and she has like her stomach growls, like she's even in that small like act, she's been kind of neglected, and ultimately that is what sort of that's what sort of like reveals her and puts her in even more danger than she already is.
It's so great because think about the amount of movies I've ever seen. Someone's in a closet, hiding in a closet, And what is the giveaway? And I've never seen this giveaway. I've never seen it. All the movies I've ever seen, never seen that giveaway. Someone's stomach grumbling, giving them away. And as someone whose stomach grumbles from time to time, it's a noise. It happens. You have no control over it. It wasn't like she messed up or whimpered or, you know, like all the things that like knocked over a hanger or like it's so funny that I was like, I've seen this so many times, and it's just that's the brilliant thing about film, right? Is we're all trying to come at things in stories that have even been told before, and boom, something I've never seen committed to film. I mean, I feel like I've seen people, you know, the grumbly stomach, but not the give it away to be hidden in the closet. It's totally so awesome.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about that backstory of the father and daughter, the robbers, and working with the actors on having that relationship, because it's really well done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the backstory really, we spent a lot of time in pre-production sort of talking about like who are these people, where are they coming from, and ultimately we sort of developed this idea that Kimberly, who plays the daughter, her whole sort of Alice is the character's name. Like her whole sort of MO is like she's there for her dad, Rich. Like she's there all the time. She's somebody who's always sort of put up with his BS, who's maybe done this sort of thing with him before. She's sort of raised in a family or in a household with him as maybe just her sole parental figure, really. And he's not like a shining example of a father, but he's all that she has. And so she tags along with him. She puts up with his BS and like, goes along with these heists or these things that he does. And he has sort of introduced her into this, but not as a way to bond with her or anything like that, as a free hand, as a free partner that can come along for the ride. And he is pretty, a pretty obvious sort of disregard for her own safety. But ultimately it's, that's where the relationship sort of came from. And this is like the last straw for her, this situation they find themselves in. And working with Alex and Kimberly, who are just so awesome. They, from the beginning, when we auditioned them, we knew that this was them. They did really well on their own. Alex brings like a certain like intensity that I really liked, and it feels like raspy and authentic. He has like a dad kind of vibe, and we really responded to that. And Kimberly has a grittiness, but also like an innocence to the way she sort of plays the role. And that was really important when we were casting, and working with them was great. You put them both together and they were having a lot of fun. You may not know, it may not seem obvious, but they were having a lot of fun just sort of playing off each other in that way. And, in that final scene where Kimberly had to sort of unleash her anger and just like destroys the painting as sort of a statement to her dad, like that she, her way of sort of getting through to him. I remember just her being like we're in like this tiny Brooklyn apartment shooting this, and she's in the bathroom like amping herself up for it and like really like getting into that space. And I don't know, I guess I love seeing actors kind of do that, because that's something I can't really do, is put myself in that mental space, and watching them sort of work that way. It reminds you why you work with people who dedicate themselves to putting themselves in that character. And Kimberly and Alex and and Jacob, they all did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, the desperation that the artist has is so honest. Like, I was really thinking about that when I'm watching that. I'm like, what a great moment. Like like you get it all and boom, like that. And to even for the actor to come in and have that, and they're ready to go in such an honest way, to be added into something later in the game for the short film is incredible. And like, I knew he was going to go for them. Like, I knew he wasn't going to take it. He was just not in that mental space to be like, oh, I'm sorry, just take my stuff and go. Like you knew he was ready, it was gonna happen. It's a brilliant choice, because it adds such a like a foil at the end of it that they come in as the negative force, and it's like, no, you don't understand where this guy's at. And he's right now.
Exactly. We wanted to
day.
really make him pretty desperate and also kind of unlikable. You know, we didn't want Kimberly to be like when she makes a decision at the end, we didn't want her character to be like totally unforgiven at that point. Like if Randall was this really sympathetic guy, you would feel like you would totally lose the message of what she's trying to get through to her dad. But you know, he's this desperate also sort of a poor father, and you know, he lays into that vape like a real douche, you know, and that's that's kind of his character, you know.
I love the film, Justin, and I'm so happy that you submitted to us. Could you give the audience an idea where they could check out some information about you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, justinpatricolo.com, Justin Patricolo at Instagram. You can also check out the production company that I worked with on this project, Room 3 NYC. They're awesome. They're doing a lot of really great work. My good friend Ed Cuervo is the executive producer over there. He's a top-notch guy, and they make some top-notch stuff. So yeah, and all the artwork in the film was done by Laura Haas. She's a tremendous artist, based in Brooklyn, New York. So you definitely check her out on Instagram. Yeah, everybody involved in this project honestly was a creative force. So go to room3nyc.com, find Hot Pink, check my website out. You'll find Hot Pink and all the new stuff that we're all working on.
And creative forces coming together. That's what this is all about. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm here to celebrate the film Uncovered. And can you introduce yourself for us, for our audience who's just seen your movie?
I am John Montoya. I produced Uncovered, and it was directed by Robert Vornkahl and written by a gentleman named John Turner. And Uncovered, it wasn't a film that I set out to produce. In fact, when I started the Backlot Hollywood program, I didn't know what film I would produce. So I used social media and went to a screenwriting group on Facebook and had persons send queries. I put up a long introduction, what the pay would be for the script, and what exactly I was looking for in terms of parameters for my ability to produce something quickly. And I received over 24, well, I received more than 24 queries, but I ended up sending out invitations for people to send me synopsis, et cetera, for their scripts. And I sent them release forms and all of that. And I ended up with over 24 scripts, and Uncovered was one of them. I then met with some industry professional friends of mine, and we talked about the scripts, and we picked 3 final scripts. From there, we put them up on Facebook. The 3 writers wrote video pitches, and then the audiences on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, they voted for the script, and they picked Uncovered, and that's the script that I said I would produce. And then I did the same thing looking for directors, and I got directors, they put together pitches, I put those up on the social media sites, and the persons chose Rob. So then it's Rob and I, and we decided what we were looking for in terms of actors for the lead characters, Sarah and Greg, and came up with that, put it out Facebook, no luck finding any reputable actors through Facebook. So I went to Backstage. I had over 1,000 submissions for the 2 characters of Greg and Sarah.
That's how it goes.
Yes, and I emailed all but 3 of them back. And the 3 I didn't email is because I accidentally hit delete, and I couldn't find where they went. They weren't in the trash, they weren't in archives, they just disappeared. So I apologize to those 3 people, but we ended up with really phenomenal talent, from the scripts to the directors to the actors. And a lot of it in the casting stage, allowing the audience to pick Sarah and Greg relieved me of the responsibility of telling the different parties. Oh, sorry, we can't choose you, because we really did have more talent than we could have possibly used. And when we shot with Rob, who is an alumni of this film festival.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
A very, very professional, excellent producer, very efficient. We were on set 1.5 days, maybe 2 days, and we had no problems. They tell you as producers to always be able to problem solve and find workarounds for things that come up, because they always do. This was one of the cases where nothing happened that was told to me that had to be solved. And probably if things did, Rob probably took care of them, because that's the kind of director he is. But everything worked out well. And if you needed something like coffee, I was there to provide coffee. So, but it came out, the film came out really well. I was very pleased with it.
It's a really interesting film, this fantasy, but it's set with a kind of a straightforward tone. And I thought that Rob did an excellent job directing this and playing it on its face value for what it was. It's such an interesting story. I didn't know anything about the fact that it was kind of like a contest to get your film produced. That's a great idea. And you found a wonderful director too to execute it.
Right. Yeah, Rob was outstanding. He really was turnkey solution. I expected to have to bring in everybody and have the director work with a crew that I had gathered previously and had worked with on a film called Something Horrible, which is a feature film. And I had planned to do that, but then when I saw what he was capable of, I said, well, you know, this is what I have in terms of my budget for bringing these other people in. And he said, oh, I could do that. I said, cool, this is a lot easier. And I was writing a script up in Bakersfield with a friend of mine, and he's a single male, and his house looks like nobody lives there. And it's a really nice house as well. So we just had to move a couple things off the shelves. Rob's wife is an art director, so she set it up. They came up one day, took pictures. When they came to the set ready to produce, they knew exactly what they were doing from first time through the door, getting things ready, putting the props where they were. And it helped to not have a whole lot. Things needed to look bare. But even with that, with the few props that we did have, they were, Danielle was ready, Rob was ready, the crew was ready. He hired part of his crew just based on phone interviews up in Bakersfield. And it worked out really well. There were a lot of professionals that came to the set and worked on it. So again, when producers are expecting to problem solve, there was none of that for me. It was all pretty much taken care of.
That's wonderful. And it's exciting to hear you use somebody like Rob, who we know, and who's a wonderful director in person.
Yes.
And it's a testament too of hiring somebody who knows what they're doing and like worked the independent film circuit and made their own films, figured out the ins and outs of all this. So when an opportunity arises where someone's willing to back them, that they can immediately jump on it and they know how to handle themselves. I think that speaks to your judgment of hiring somebody who's so intelligent and professional, as well as just the fact that like there's people out there that are making movies with no money and that they know what they're doing. So when they get that opportunity, we like try to lift up those people in this festival. And Rob has won a Best Director award with us, and he's been.
Oh, he has. Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah, I know why. I understand why, because I've worked with a lot of people, and generally catastrophic things have not happened with any of my productions, but it was so easy with him, so easy. I didn't have to make decisions on the fly, nor was he. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I'm pleased. I'm very pleased.
Great performances too.
Iteration of Backlight Hollywood. I do want to do that. COVID happened. I did some other things, but we're all in the same boat here in terms of trying to produce in different and creative ways.
Yeah, and if you could tell the audience where they could see your different films that you're producing, where can they find you?
Well, I'm working on, we've done some quarantine short films. They're on the Social Distance Film Festival YouTube channel. They can also go to socialdistancefilmfestival.org and get information there to the different social media pages. But the videos are on YouTube, and we've done some really cool films. We've still got a couple more that we are currently in production on. and one that were in post-production. So we gathered people again from backstage. Backstage was kind enough to give me a code to try and gather actors and writers actually from all over the country. And we found a bunch of short scripts, found actors that were willing to self-tape the scenes. And between me and my partner, Alicia Fine, we've been editing them together, and they look really cool. You can tell that people are doing it on their own at their own home, but it was a cool exercise for actors and for us as producers just to keep busy and not get any rust. Because for me, I premiered a film in 2000 at South by Southwest as a producer. And then I got married and things kind of slowed down a great deal. The kids started running around the house after they were born, and things like this are necessary for me to keep busy. That's why I did Backlot Hollywood. I didn't want to have to write anything. I didn't want to have to direct anything. I didn't want to have to shoot anything because I have a 4K camera on the other side of the computer here. But I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted to find people that could do it so that I could at least have my fingers in something that was creative, because I suffer from the burden of creativity. And I've constantly have to be writing or drawing, or I'm trying to learn Photoshop now. I know Premiere Pro and Audition, but I'm trying to learn Photoshop. It's hard.
Yeah. But John, you're doing the work, and you're giving people an opportunity during a very difficult time. And I know that means a lot to a lot of people. And I hope that there's a lot more people like you out there right now trying to produce and give people an opportunity for their first time or their next time, or just create during these difficult times. But John, thank you so much for joining us here and showing us this beautiful film.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the Chain Film Festival. We wanted to go out there and see you all in person. New York is such a wonderful town, city, metropolis. And hopefully we'll look for you next year to submit some of these quarantine shorts or some other things that we come up with, and hope to see you again.
I would love that. And I would love to meet you in person. Thank you, John.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm here with Shane and his film, which you just saw. And I didn't know that Shane was involved in did you write it? Did you direct it as well?
Yeah. I helped the writer. I co-wrote some of it, and I wrote some of the scenes and created some of the scenes. And then I also helped direct the second unit stuff. I also did the fight choreography, the stunt coordinating, and producing, and acted in it as well.
Wow. I mean, what a vehicle for yourself. You're brilliant in it. You're brilliant in it. I mean,
oh, thank you, man. It was one of those ones that, die like a shark, me mate urudo. It was something I believe and I think a lot of filmmakers can actually appreciate that when you actually have a project that you're passionate about and you want to try and get it out, to keep costs down, and you just try and do everything yourself. And luckily for me, I do stunts and that as well, and fight coordinating. And so it was just, and I went through drama school as an actor, so it all kind of fell into place for me. The producing side of things for me just kind of worked out because I've been in the film industry for so long over here in New Zealand in Aotearoa, and I knew a lot of people, so I called on a whole lot of favors, and they all came through.
That's awesome. Don't worry about that. There's a lot going on in this piece, and it's such a short film to have so much going on, the action, the crowds that you have for those big scenes.
Cheers, bro.
Do you fight as well? I mean,
yeah. I used to be a boxer. And then got into New Zealand drama school, and I was looking at trying to maybe turn pro, but I was also a professional rugby player, and that. And drama school pretty much put a quash on all of my sporting activities. They basically said, "What do you want to be? Do you want to be an actor, or do you want to be a professional athlete?" And so I went down the acting route. But it's funny you should say the crowd scenes, because for anyone who actually watched the film, believe it or not, the walkout, the very first the walkout was actually the first shot of the whole film of our shoot that we shot. It took us, believe it or not, it was only a 7-day shoot, but it took us 12 months to do it because we actually filmed at live fighting events to try and get the crowd in that. And we shot the last fight first because in my mind, if we couldn't emulate that the last fight was a big event, like UFC type event, it was a waste of time filming all the drama, you know? Because to me, it doesn't matter to me whether or not the film's good at the beginning and in the middle, but if the ending's weak, then the audiences, that's what they walk away feeling. They feel let down. So for me, it was just about filming that last the last fight first, so that we could, you know, if we could pull that off, then we could carry on filming the rest of it. And it took us, they only did an event every couple of months. So it meant that, yeah, it took us, we had to fly from Wellington up to Auckland because it wasn't even in our city. So we had to fly up to Auckland, and basically, yeah, I think it took us 3 times. So that was 9 months right there.
Wow. But I mean, I see that there is a real method to that idea, though, that you needed that big fight to really sell the whole thing. Like it was like Rocky at the end, you know, you needed that. Yeah, no, I'm really impressed with everything in this, the action coordination, and the acting. I was looking at you and I'm like, this guy can really act, and he really looks tough.
you know what's funny too is that, like, I went through New Zealand drama school and I did 7 years of professional theatre, and then Lord of the Rings came on down here, and because of my sporting background, I got into stunts, and it was weird. Like as soon as I got into stunts, everyone forgot that I was an actor. And I mean, I even, you know, I did Spartacus, Gods of the Arena as an actor, and a whole lot of crew that knew me used to come up to me and go, "You ever thought about acting? Because you're not bad." And that's one of the reasons why I actually really wanted to do this piece, was just to show people that I'm not just a stunt guy, you know, I'm not just a creature guy. And also to that whole thing too of, I just wanted to portray that it doesn't matter how tough you are, you know, behind closed doors, you're your own person. And what people don't see behind closed doors, you know, can normally tell a different side of a person. And I think that's what I love about this film. It's just a journey that, you know, it's under 15 minutes long, and I feel as though the audience gets captivated very quickly into the characters and the whole journey that they go with Mark the Nightmare Ortony is that it starts off with your typical fighter, male, you know, all he wants to do is this. And then by the end of the film, see that actually everything he was doing wasn't for him, was actually for his family.
I think you completely did that. And I think that what's so interesting to me too is the juxtaposition of who you cast as the big bad in this. With you, I mean, like we've seen this in other kind of a boxing stories, or like people throwing fights and stuff, but like the physical size you have, and then the vulnerability that you have of being held by somebody. And it's like, it doesn't matter how big you are, like people can take everything from you.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Get in a bad situation. Like, and I like that you didn't even necessarily go into what that specific situation was that got you so stuck with this guy. Like, we got it. You cut to the chase, and you got right in there. And the glimpses we see of your home life, and the woman playing your wife, who's wonderful. Like, and just in very small scenes, we get the whole thing. It's brilliant. And that's what a short film's about. Like, and that's what if you watch the talkbacks on this, that's what you're gonna see me say over and over again, which is really exciting to me, is that like
awesome.
The use of time. Like, you can tell a story in 3 minutes that, you know, there's 2-hour movies that don't do, like, they don't even touch it. Like, it's all about the use of time and ingenuity, and that's what independent film, when it shines, is all about. And I mean, this looked like $1 million. I mean, it looked spectacular. But that's also the ingenuity that you have to do.
No, and totally. And that was the other thing is, you know, if you've got a good crew, if you've got a good script and a good story, good acting, like the whole idea of trying to make, you know, because it does, if people do watch it, they'll look at it and go, oh my gosh, what was the budget on that thing? Because that was huge, you know, the fight scenes and stuff like that. And I suppose to me that's probably one of my greatest achievements on this film as a producer, is to make a film that looked like $1 million out of the budget of a McDonald's Happy Meal. You know?
Yeah.
And that's it. What we had was a fantastic crew. Our DOP, honestly, that walkout shot, believe it or not, when people see that, people always say that walkout shot reminded me of The Wrestler. That just epic proportions. And mate, we had 6 30-second takes in a window of 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, because we shot that during halftime. The fight stopped. We jumped in the ring. We did 4 30-second takes. And then they brought the house lights up and everyone went out, and then they brought it. And then I asked if we could do one more take, and the organizer of the event said, yeah, of course you can. They brought the lights down. We did one more take, and then my DOP was just like, one more take, just one more. And it was incredible because, you know, he just shot it on his camera. It just used the house lighting, you know, and just the smoke, and the shots that he got were just, as soon as I saw those shots, I was just like, man, that looks incredible. And then we just carried on that style, you know, and it's important to try and, I suppose, where you can get a DOP that captures the feeling and the look that you want to try and sell your film, you know, it's, especially with short films and stuff like that. I mean, when you've only got a short amount of time to try and sell it to the audience, still try and do it to the best of your ability with the best production value you can get, you know?
Yeah, and it's there. It is. And I'm shocked. You say 10 minutes. Oh my God. That would have taken somebody else. I mean, like they would have spent a week on that.
Dude, yeah.
To know what you want.
Not even 10 minutes, you know, it was 6 30-second takes. And
wow.
that was our first day. That was our first day shoot. We flew all the way up to Auckland just to do that walkout, because I wanted to, I thought, you know, the walkout, if we can capture a good walkout, then I know we can carry on with the film. And plus I wanted to build up a relationship, because the organizer of the event had no idea who I was.
Oh,
so
really?
I wanted
wow.
to build up a relationship with the organizer so he could see, okay, you know, that was pretty easy. It was pretty painless. They were easy to work with, so that the next time I phoned them up, they set the ring up a day early so we could go in and shoot. I got some extras on the outside so we could shoot through them. And then the next night, we did our wides and stuff like that with us in the ring, and then with all the people around. And then we came up one other night, and the third time we came up, we were just looking through the ring doing the bad guy's character, Jed Brophy's character, on the table. Honestly, the organizer just said, look, just go in there and shoot whenever you want to shoot after the fights, in between the fights. He goes, the ref will let you know when you can get out. Dude, we were in there sometimes, and the fighters were already in the ring. They're already into it, and we're in there filming, and I'm just like, oh, we got to get out now, and we'd hop out. They trusted us that much that it was good. I mean, the other thing for where I was lucky as well, the guy that I fought at the end, Ruben de Jong, like I'm 6'4", and he made me look like a little boy. He's 6'10". He was New Zealand.
I was like, how big is this guy now? I saw you in the ring with him.
Yeah. So he's 6'10". Ruben de Jong was 6'10", and he was New Zealand super heavyweight boxing and kickboxing champ back, a few years ago. So everyone in the crowd knew who he was. And he was New Zealand's strongest man as well for a while. And then our referee, Albert Rounds, Heimuli, his whole family are legendary in the boxing industry here in New Zealand. And he's actually a ref as well. So it actually really worked for us when we were in there doing scenes and that with the big audience there, because they knew Albert and because they knew Ruben were fighters. They actually really got into it. It wasn't as if they were a fighting crowd and they were sitting back going, who are these idiots? They really got into it, They were just going, they really got into it because they knew the other two guys in there were, they were professionals. And so it really helped sell the fact when the audience was there getting into it as well.
That's brilliant that you were able to do that. That was a great way to handle the situation. And it sounds like you knew like the obstacles leading up to it, and your DP knew, and like you knew just how to work it. And that's really what guerrilla filmmaking is, the film, like get it going.
Yeah, and that's it too, is I think the lessons for people that are getting into it is try and be as prepared as you can, and already have what problems you're going to come up against already worked out, so that when you come to shoot it, guerrilla filmmaking is hardest at the best of times, because you just shoot and go and making it up. But if you know what you want and you've already worked it out how you want to do it, then it adds. What it does is it doesn't only just make it easier to shoot, it actually gives it production value. And to me, that's what a good short film really, really needs. It's good quality, good production value. And
well, this certainly had
you've
that.
got that, because what that does is it as soon as the opening scene comes up, the audience is you've already captured the audience because of the visuals. And so from there, they're now just concentrating on the characters and the storyline and getting taken on the journey you're trying to portray. Whereas if you undersell the production value of it, straight away people will look at it and go, oh yeah, it's a short film. They didn't have a very big budget. They're already factoring that in there.
No, you totally get sucked in right away with this because of exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you, Kirk. I really appreciate that, man.
And it's not just the production value. I mean, like the acting is just great. Everybody's great.
Well, I was lucky. I was lucky in that the actors that we got on, Mark Hadlow, who played my coach, I'd worked with him before, and he's just got that beautiful weathered look, and wisdom, and he's just a fantastic actor. And to date, the locker room scene to date, and I knew I was onto a win with that locker room scene when he came up to me afterwards and said, "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the best acting scene in my career so far." And when he came up and said that to me, I went, "Wow!" And I've got to thank the Film Commission on that, because that locker scene wasn't supposed to go like that, but when we tried to get funding, and we never did, so this is fully independent, this film, we didn't get any funding whatsoever. They said that they felt as though the female character wasn't strong enough, and they wanted her to have a voice, and I didn't really want her in the locker room, so came up with brainstorm with a good friend of mine, Nicole Van Heerden, and she said, "What about a voice message in the locker room?" And I was just like, that's perfect, because that then gives the character a voice, but it doesn't change the scene, Whereas I felt if she was in the scene, my character wouldn't act the way he acted in front of her. So it was just a good way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a choice for separation there, I think, throughout the piece.
Yeah.
It didn't feel put on. It just felt like it was part of that world.
And I'll tell you what's interesting. Laura Thompson, who she played Emma, my wife, and we were working on another short film called Zealandia, which is just being released at the moment with Bruno Dubois, and it's funny, we did all the main shooting, and then we came back to do pickups, and I hadn't found Emma. I hadn't found anyone. And Laura walked in from a flight from Auckland. And as soon as she walked through the door and said, good morning, and I looked at her and went, oh my gosh, that's Emma right there. I've been working with her the whole time. And it was one of those ones where I didn't ask her straight out. What I did was I told her the story about the film commission and said the female character wasn't strong enough. And she goes, really? And and I said, yeah. And then I said, do you want to read it while she was doing her makeup? I said, it's only 10 pages long. And she started reading it. And by the end of reading it, she was just like, you know what? I don't know what the film commission are talking about. She goes, this character is so strong. She is such a strong female. And I said, really? You really think so? She goes, yeah. She goes, I'd love to be able to play a character like this one day. And I said, well, would you like to? And she was like, what? And I said, it's yours if you want it. And she was just like, really? I was just like, yeah, So I was lucky enough that she was the only one I'd never really worked with, because Jed Brophy, who played the bad guy as well, again, like you were saying, it's that juxtaposition. Like, I'm a big guy. I didn't want a bad guy to be the same height as me, or big as me, because to me then it doesn't really show the power of a bad guy. And if you look at all the say mafia films and stuff like that, the bosses aren't big guys. The bosses are powerful, but they aren't big guys. They have the muscle to sort everything out. And that's what I liked about having Jed there, was that he just had a presence of about him that people, when they looked at me and him physically, went, he could just take him out so easily. But it just gave him more strength and more power when you knew that he had something else over me.
Yeah, it's all there, man. It's such a wonderful piece. And I'm curious, I'd love our audience to be able to find more information about you. Do you have a website or anywhere?
You know what? Unfortunately, I don't have a website, but I mean, you can look me up online. There's a whole lot of videos and that YouTube videos and that are with me, about me, and then my social media pages.
And do you have an Instagram handle or a Facebook?
Yeah, I do. My Instagram handle's Stunt Māori. Or Stunt Maori, or you can just look up Shane Rangi on Instagram and Facebook, awesome. Stuff like that.
Well, thank you, Shane. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for sharing your film, and we're very excited to see what you have coming next. And thank you for joining the Chain Film Festival.
Dude, Kirk, thank you very much, brother. I really appreciated this opportunity. You're the first online festival that's sort of like reached out to me, and me and my partner Nick Epstein would just really like to thank you.
No, happy to have you.
Awesome. Thanks, cuz.
Bye.
Ka kite.